Okay. So before we start, I'm going to show first the memo about limited face-to-face. No? We will discuss this one. Then if you have some concerns, questions, right after the discussion, you can ask a question or clarification. I'm going to present first about the memo. Okay. Can you view now my monitor? Blurred, yeah? What about the others?
Yes, sir. Blurry siya sa ako pagkain. Ka-clear siya, tapos ka-blur na yung usahay.
Hmm?
Blur also
Maybe sa
on my
internet
end.
connection. Hmm?
Blur yapon on my
Maybe sa
end, sir.
internet connections. Pag man akong internet, full bar man. Sa inyo siguro, ang internet. Okay, I'll just read, no? A memo from the Office of the Vice President for Academic Affairs. Subject. Advisory 2, conduct of classes second semester school year 2021-2022. And consonants with COVID-19 advisory number 9, dated January 10, 2022, and the latest issuance of Interdigi Task Force for Management of Emerging Infectious Disease. Sorry. At Cagayan de Oro City, still alert level 3 from February 1 to 15, 2022. Please be guided of the following. So, supposed to be atong limited face-to-face, atong magsugod of February 2. But nag-increase man gihapon, level 3 gihapon, kumunin na mo February 7. Okay. Number 1, limited face-to-face class with 30% capacity for laboratory subjects. There are several laboratory subjects selected. Laboratory subjects in first year and second year. So, sa third year, gina-determine pa. And sa fourth year, it's mostly internship. So, 30% capacity for laboratory subjects can be conducted starting February 7. From 2 to move sa 7. And flexible learning strategies shall continue to be implemented for lecture subjects. So, dahil nagyapan ang mga lecture. Work from home of faculty members will continue from February 1 to 15, 2022. So, there are some laboratory subjects na pwede dili siya in campus, no? Dry lab lang siya, o pwede lang po virtual. But there are some selected subjects, as I said, it needs to be performed in the laboratory with limited capacity because laboratory subjects sometimes is very helpful during board exam. So we choose laboratory subjects and activity to be conducted in campus because there's some questions about exam. You can recall what you perform in the laboratory. No? So, work from home faculty members will continue from February 1 to 15, 2022. 30% capacity of academic offices. Strict implementation of health and safety protocols inside the school campus. So, you need to have vaccination card, PhilHealth, kung dili na mo cover sa yung parents, and QR code, no? Before you can enter sa pasilyo. Before, i-require gid siya ang physical exam, but since murag late yung kayo, no? So, pwede rin makasunod sa pasilyo, but after that, kanaan mo dito, that's the time nga we will schedule about physical examination. Okay. So, February 7, supposed to be February 7 mag-start. But during our meeting yesterday, I raised this concern. It seems murag doon naman kayo. For the student nga ganahan yun mag face-to-face, mangita pag boarding house. here in CDO niya, ga-online class na sila. So, I asked nga kung pwede, even other department asking nga, kung pwede sa February 14 na mag-start. So, karon continuous ata virtual or online laboratory, no? Instead mag-start ng 7, online lang gihapon virtual. So, sa 14 na ang limited face-to-face or in-campus laboratory with selected subjects. February 14, so that you still have time for those really ganahan gyud mag face-to-face sa laboratory, no? So mo yung mga requirements. And then another thing, once na ano mo sa laboratory sa in-campus na nagkandak nagkuan laboratory, you should we have canteen, no? We have canteen in the paseo. Now if ever dili mo makadalag balon, no? May canteen, but if ever wala mo kadala, and then situate kay I ask the question, what if kung dili na ganahan sa food ang kuan aso din sa canteen, bawal magpa-deliver kaya mga food panda, because we don't know kung sa asara naabot ang mga food panda kuan delivery ano, so sa asas lang maabot, so tendency ba madala ang virus daw, so inana ang mahitabo, so you have to bring your own baon if ever dili mo ganahan sa food sa canteen. Now, kung hindi mo makadala, naputay po sa canteen. So, inala siya. So, question raised nga, Sir, needed one ha. Sir, kanang kinanglan nagyod ka ng mandatory na gyud. Okay, this is not mandatory. Okay? Kung non-mandatory, kaya mo na i-sulti, no? Okay, so, because the other questions, ningon mong gyud nga, nangutan na mong gyud. Sir, mandatory gina siya, Sir. No, hindi siya mandatory. No, so tendency pag naay online in campus laboratory, so not all because 30% ra good okay kita to ganahan, so not all maka-attend, tendency na agyapoy online continuation in online, no, online laboratory gihapon. So ang may tabo doble ang trabaho sa faculty, so mag-online siya na siya recorded pre-recorded video, i-upload lang niya. And then, mag-laboratory po siya. So, pre-recorded video for those dili makapil sa in-campus. Okay. So, any questions, clarification about this one? Questions, clarifications? Yes.
Sa 30%, sir ba, kanang unsa bahinon lugar mi ana sir, if isa mi ka block mabahin gyapon mi sa isa ka classroom.
Bahinon gyud siya. Nga kinay kuan gyud nga. So sa 30%, so sa 40, so duha ka laboratory ang gamiton.
Or okay, sa isa ka block.
Sa isa ka block duha ka laboratory room gamiton.
Okay.
May tabo. And then because there are some
Nathaniel,
so
asa ka?
Because there are some maglisod yung are inana, so mo ginay
Asa ka?
di pa ko tanda, so di pa mo ginay ba, sige, okay, kay di man
Ali diri ali di speakers.
so
Ali.
tendency there are some ganahan
Nagunsa ka?
in campus laboratory, so katong
Nara man lagay mo laptop dire.
mag in campus ya katong dili gid ba digit kare
Naka sa kwarto?
very helpful mo pud ang laboratory, so katong dili gid ganahan so tendency online gihapon, so asynchronous, meaning pre-recorded video will be uploaded by the instructor. Now, I raise again a question. What if ang faculty na symptoms? Okay, so karon nag-meeting na po sila. Because several questions yesterday meeting with the admin, ipa-raise na mo sa mga academic chair. So what is kung ang faculty nanap itong mahitabo na symptoms? So usually taon pagklase sa faculty ko kung nasa sipon, bawal man siya musulod po sa pasiyo, no? Pati kung student po, so the same, bawal gyapon kung may mga symptoms. Yan ang mga gipang-raise na questions. That is why na sila follow-up meeting karon with the administration and deans ug ang administration na sila follow-up questions because of the questions being raised yesterday. Okay? Again, apay questions? Yes, Miss Magpayo.
Sir, since dili man siya mandatory mag-attend sa class na face-to-face, para lang ba niya siya for this month lang during sa announcement or whole semester na niya siya na dili mandatory?
Kana kay mag-wait pud tag unsay kuan na pud gikan sa CHED, no? As of now, inana pagid siya non mandatory, pero kung moingon nga balik na tanang school, balik na by February 16. So inana bitaw ang case. So that is why natay transitory mga maka-prepare student, but dili ko sure kung unsa na gyud kini ka 16 kay we don't know basig mo increase ta. So gawit lang ta kung unsay kuan gyud sa CHED. Pero I think other schools siguro hinahinay ba sila, wala pa gid sila. No? So inana ang case. So as of now, pwede ra. Okay, mao lagi na karon meeting, mag-wait po kung unsay resulta po silang itin because of that i-raise nga question. So if kung inana mo taas na pud ini ka February 16, so sa naman pud. Diba? So that is why na sila follow-up meeting kanina. Kay mo na gipang-raise nga question kahapon sa mga academic share. What if kung para 16, no? Mo lang gyapon, level ko lang gyapon ta. Or hindi mas na-increase by noon. Kung man. Di ba? So, niari na estudyante niya ni nag-level 4. Oh, kaya na case ba? So, for the meantime, so those who are really ganahan gyud pag face-to-face student, okay? You have to look for your boarding house, no? Try to na lang Saturday or Sunday mangita mo, and then so that we could also prepare, no? So this evening mag-meeting ng mga faculty sa pharmacy because what I suggest to our Dean Aquino, no? Dean, I think we need to have one survey kinsa tong maka-attend gyud by February 14. No? Kung kinsa to pila gyud ang sure nga maka-attend so that we could prepare also kung pila gyud capacity. So by this evening, our intake specialist, Sir Achas, I think he will make a Google form questionnaire regarding a survey kung pila gyud maka-attend. Now again, for those because there are some students nga ganahan na gyud sila mo Mori kay gusto sa laboratory gyud, no? So for that, you prepare your PhilHealth, dili mo cover sa parents, and then QR code, ang vaccination card. Okay? Ang physical exam, dili na siya pag naana mo. Okay? Boarding house ninyo. Okay? So, again, one agenda in their meeting yesterday, the other previous meeting, it was said that major exams, meaning prelim to final, prelim, midterm, semi-final, must be in campus. Okay, must be in campus. Meaning, mo rin gyud mas estudyante in campus. So, walay online examination. But it was raised again, no? Questions nga in campus. So what if, again, if the student cannot attend the in-campus major exam, and the student will request, so I asked this question, I raised this question, if the student requests online exam ang iyaha, allowed ba muhatag online? Then ang uban in-campus, unfair po, no? So inana. So the admin said nga, dili pwede, we have to wait na maayo siya. Then we will give a special written exam. So inana. So that is why karon nag-follow up meeting sila. I don't know yet the result with meeting with the dean and administration regarding this concerns. Okay, Ms. Saison?
Sir, with regards sir, laboratory, ang schedule ba? In a day, sir, what if na yung minor subjects manguli rami, sir, like diretso after na mo mag-laboratory?
Okay. Kana siya. Kana ganina na-raise ko na questions because you have also other minors after sa laboratory. No? So, there are internet sa sa pasilyo. So, pwede mo makagamit. But I think wala po ni siya na-raise ko ganina gahapon. Na inana nga case bitaw. But tendency, kung namin klase, you will stay there in Paseo, you use the internet for your next subject. Inana siya. Now, good kay na-raise siya. Gahapon wala mo gani siya mga questions kay delimit the capacity sa sa Paseo. So inana nga case kada sunod klase da ito ang student, so mag-stay siya dito kay na sa internet. So dapat na-raise ko ni ganina. Sige lang. Anyway, inana to ang remedy pod. Mo stay mo dito in one classroom and dito mo gamit sa internet. Inana. So kung ngayon sila mo limit sa capacity sa Paseo, so maybe. So we will wait for kung unsay result yung silang meeting karon kay because of that mga concerns ni pang raise sa mga student and parents. Because there are some parents nga nangayo silang memo regarding sa katong in-campus na examination. All major exams, ngayo silang memo. Or some students also nangayo po memo with that kay ihatag sila parents. So I don't know sa result karon sila meeting with the deans, no? But if ever na mag-post po may mag-share mi sa inyo si memo. At the same time, this evening, as I said, conduct mig survey, no? Mag-upload ang atong EdTech specialist Google form, questionnaire para ma-determine mo kung pila gyud ang mo appeal. Okay? So again, we understand nga there are some grabe kalayo po, lisod pa ang pag-travel, especially silang area level 3 po, no? Mas taas pa, something inana. So, mo po na ilahang i-discuss karon sa ilang ganina sa ilang meeting. So, dili siya yung mandatory. Okay? So, good questions kato siya. Okay. Verdigil?
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, about sa
Yes.
PhilHealth, sir, okay lang ba if dependent pa sa parents?
Okay, kung dependent pa, pwede pa. No? Kay usually, ang katong dili na kuan, I think above 18, no? Dili na cover sa parents. So you should have your own PhilHealth. Okay? What else? You're welcome. Yes, magpayo.
Sir, regarding atong sa face-to-face bitaw na laboratory, unsaon ang
Yes.
exam para sa mga nipili na online gihapon ang class sa lab?
Sa to, unsaon ang sa laboratory nga face to face?
Yes, sir. Bali unsa ang paagi sa mga wala nipili og face-to-face if mag-quiz or mag-exam during sa lab?
Okay. Mo na siya kuan ganin i-appeal sa meeting. Actually, inani sa mahitabo. So during laboratory ang dili maka-appeal asynchronous, pre-recorded. And then so mahulog nga ang katong naka-appeal kay in campus lagi ang major exam. So in campus, so tendency ang katong wala naka-appeal muari gihapon sila for kung madayon man ginang memo nga muari gihapon sila during major exams. Ang katong maski wala naka-appeal sa laboratory, maski asynchronous sila. Mo na ilang itakol karon ganina sa meeting na pod kay inana nga mga sitwasyon. Okay. Parang ang uban nag-asynchronous tapos ang uban nag-in campus niya during exam online ang uban in campus, something inana bitaw. So there are some nga mo-prepare sila kuan online pero marag naay mga advantage, something inana. Yeah. Mas gusto mong kita na mo in campus kay we don't know mangyud sa kuan no na magiuban nga di gid makalikay no dili gid ani sa ilahang during examination. Okay? Kay maski during examination ni din copy paste pa gyud no nana ba so may mga tendency mong nga na digid na to malikayan, so that is why we want nga unta na face. So sa case nga na karon they have to tackle also na regarding unfair po kayo nga online la sira ya kami na face to face me. So nana na sa estudyante, depende na sa iya no. If you really want you will learn a lot no. So you will be honest no. Kay katong manikas pod mao po magproblema pod sa board exam. So siguro basig unya na nato yung mga answer sa mga gipang raise na questions. Okay? So, but all quizzes online. So, ang katong ilang appeal sa topic nila kanina sa meeting, ang katong all major exams must be in campus. Ila patuhang istoryahan sa mga dun. No? Any questions? More? Kung daghan pa ito nag-raise sa hand? Okay, Divina Gracia.
Regarding sa mga exam, sir, when na ang final nga date sa mga prelim?
Sa school calendar is February 14. So, mga lagi na nga. February 14 in campus. But sometimes, usahay, dili biya magkapareha. Mamanay, i-discuss ko na mo. Dili biya usahay makahatag ang faculty because nag-series of walay klase. So, dili gid matunong. Saan man na siya. Okay, but usually, mag-start yun ang sa school calendar, mag-start ang atong prelim is February 14 to 19. So, start sa 14. 19 ba to? Oh, yeah. So, inana. Okay, so mag-wait paghihapon ko sa kuan katong result gyapon sa meeting about in-campus nga major exams. But quizzes online. Okay? Any more? Okay, magpayo again? Yes.
Sir, so bali, dili sa mi mo sure o pa-reserve og mga kada bitong boarding house or pad para puy-an na mo para ng 14. Okay, usually mo gud sa gapangayo sila og deposit og advance. And then if kanang
Kay sure naman ang kuan, sure naman ang laboratory, na naman tay nimo. Sure naman ang laboratory. Na kung ganahan ka, then you have to look for na sa inyong boarding house.
pero ang regarding sa major exams, sir, katong prelim,
ang major exams, maski wala pa ma-sure ang major exams, kinahanglan naman gyud mo nga kamong first year, kinahanglan naman gyud mo ari kung makaari gyud mo nga ganahan gyud mo mag kuan in-campus laboratory. Sure naman gyud mo kay mag-laboratory man gyud.
for example, sir, ang piliun ana kay dili sila mag in-campus laboratory.
Mao to asynchronous. Kung piliyon nila nga di sila in-campus, asynchronous sila. Mao to na mga
ang during bitaw sa sir sa 14, di ba mao na siya ang major exams, both lecture pati lab. Tapos if ever ay changes
wala pa.
sir,
Karon mahibaw na ang kuan, mahibaw na kay karon man sila nag-meeting about that. So mahibaw na siya. So layo pa man ang 14, so maka-prepare gyapon. Mo nang gi-move na mo from February 7 to 14. At least na ay enough time ang student in preparation pag pangita boarding house.
thank you, sir.
Okay, we don't know yet gani. Yes, Saison.
So like ma-move pod apil ang exam, sir, since ang classes for laboratory kay na-move man pod.
Lagi na siya tendency ma-move po siya.
Okay, sir.
So
Thank you.
kung online ang kuan, online ang laboratory, kung ang mga exams, so tendency kaya naka-schedule man siya og 14 ang prelim, so tendency na gyapon changes na kay di man pwede mag-laboratory na nga during examination. So mana gi-target lang na at least that other departments yung mga sila nga dili pa gani may sure, but at least naka-extend no in preparation nga pangita mo boarding house. Those who are interested yun, no? Kay we understand nga na there are some critical gid nga mogawas sila sa ilang area, no? Option nimo, no? Especially mas taas pa yung ilahang COVID sa ilahang case. No? Their parents nga napasyante nga wala pa vaccination. Okay? I don't know the reason nga nung wagin mo pa-vaccine. Kaya nana. So di kita kapugosan na kay dili man siya mandatory. Okay? So as to the moment, mao pa na ang napagawas yun nga memo. Okay? At least natay transition ba nga makinahinay og balik. Pero dili kini nga mandatory. Even samong side po mga faculty, no? Gamay lang kasi po, hindi naman po may pagtuon dito. Okay? Na may sore throat, ang mga symptoms. Okay? As I said nowadays, okay, it's really different nga. Before, pag natin mga trangkaso, mag-lecture pa mga ko, adto pa mo ko sa pasyo, mag-lecture ko, maski ilantan ko, trangkaso ko, but this time, dili lahi na siya. Makisipon lang. No? dili na pagtuon dito. So inana ang mga case bitaw. So ila man ang kay gipag-raise ng question. So ila nang i-discuss. I think ganina ila na lang ikuan. I don't know. I have to call up din Aquino from Terosol. Okay? So just be prepare nga na ay mga kuan. Na ay Google Form survey no mag-upload ni. Yes, Miss. Harvey Ramona. Sorry.
How about katong gusto mag face-to-face, sir? Kailangan namin magpalit og uniform, sir?
Uniform. I think makonsider pa nato na kay wala pa ba mo uniform, no? So diri na inigabot ninyo, that's the time siguro magpatahi mo. Inana. So pag-start kung wala pa mo uniform, aslong na mo yung ID, no? Yung QR code, PhilHealth, ang vaccination card. Kay sa department po, mga naman po estudyante ba nyo ni si Kuan? Okay, so pasudlon. Inana. Okay, did I answer your questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Last na lang,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, okay, just okay.
Restriction with regards haircut, sir.
Haircut, of course,
Yes.
naagi na siya. Nana siya sa manual. Nasa student manual, lagi siya ikuan sa haircut. Even sa color sa atong buhok. Nasa prescribed haircut, no? Bawal tong tag-as na makover na ang imuhang dunggan, ang imong ears. Okay? Apa?
Sir, mangutanod ako unsa
Yes.
ang mga kailangan para kailangan na documents para makasulod sa Cagayan para sa mga students na dili bitaw taga Cagayan magtuyo.
I think dili man stricto ang pagpasulod diri sa Cagayan, wala man sila ikuan. In fact, travel po mo wala may mga gipangita.
So dili na kailangan og mga swab test na sir.
Wala wala mga swab test wala. Makasulod raman. In fact, namang itong mga estudyante nga gikan bukid nun, gikan sa mga kuan kasulod raman sila. Wala dili kay stricto ang unlike before. So just bring your vaccination card. Na lang. Okay? So, if ever na po yung mga, yes. Yes, Gore?
Good afternoon, sir. Kanang mag-ask lang ako about sa ID, sir, ba? Kay wala ko man gud ako nakuha sir. Kanang mangutana ko kung unsa sa information about unsaon pagkuha, sir, ba? Unsa sila available ang office.
Okay. So, inani siya. As of now, kay ang pasiyo gigamit man gud sa law for bar exam. So, dili ni allow dito madto since Monday, no? Dili ni allow madto so wala mi ka-report dito sa pasiyo. So, tuway daghan mga ID dito. And in fact, once ma-receive na mong ID from publishing, mag-post dayon na si Ma'am Lois, our secretary, kung kinsa tong naang ID dito. Maybe na nato inyo nga dito, but since wala may kasulod dito, wala pa naka-post din si Ma'am Lois. Kaya pag-receive niya, Friday, wala pa niya ma-post na yun. Pag Monday, wala man mo dito because na bar exam. So, by Monday, ihanap tong sugdan o segregate dayon tanaw ng mga names kung sa mga ID dito na. Okay? So anyway, kung wala pa inyong ID, magfollow up man pud sa publishing regarding sa ID katong wala pa dito sa office ang ilang mga ID. So I think daghan na kayo dito nga abot kay nakita na ko atong kuan na daghan dito. Wala lang siguro. Kay once maabot ninyong ID, Ma'am Lois, our secretary, mag-email din na sa inyo ha. You can claim your ID and anytime or what time. Mag-inform siya sa inyo ha. As long kung tuwa na dito yung ID, pero kung wala pa na publishing pa, so dili po mo ka-receive o message sa email. Okay? Naka-receive na?
Sir,
naka-receive na? Yes.
Last ang kanang pwede ra siya over the counter, sir, o kuan, sir, ba? Yung delivery lang, sir?
Over the counter nga?
Pagkuha sa ID, sir, or pag ipa-deliver.
Kuan mo? Sa ipadala?
Sir, nangutana lang ko, sir, kung pwede ba siya over the counter or kuan?
Kuan lang. Maybe if you have some relatives dire, paghatag lang authorization. Dili siya pwede nga ipadala na mo LBC.
Dili siya pwede sir, LBC sir.
Kuan lang, if you have some relatives, so imo nang relatives dahil mo pa LBC kay kung tanan magpa LBC na mahurot among time atog LBC.
Okay, sir. Thank you
So
sir.
ano lang, kung na kay mga friend or relatives, just give authorization letter. Then inform dayon ang pwede mo mag-email sa pharmacy@ucu.edu.ph. I-authorize this person nga magkuha sa imong ID. Then padala po authorization letter. Ana. Oh. Okay? Yes, Villar.
Good afternoon, sir. Kanang
Yes.
mag-ask lang ko about sa katong major exam bitaw, sir. Kanang
Yes.
ang schedule bitaw niya, sir. Unsa inyong pamaagi ana, sir, kay what if dili mi mag face to face, sir, ba niya? Ang pag-exam ang good, sir, kay wala mi puy-an sa CDO.
Mao na akong kuan kanina i-discuss nga ang ang katong all major exams mitingan pa usab ganina I don't know pa sa result, mitingan pa usab now. If ever nga madayon gyud na nimo gyud all major exams kung naa na gyud result karon, so ma-inform dayon mo nga inana ang case nga in campus gyud ang all major exams, walay online, so at least maka-prepare gyud mo. So inana. So as of now, di pa kay nako matubag no kay mag-wait pa ko sa unsay response sa admin.
Okay,
So,
sir.
inana.
Thank you, sir.
Anymore, isa pa tong isa. Nag-raise. Okay. Sige.
Sir, dili naman kailangan og swab test no para makasulod sa paseyo kay
Wala
Ano,
na swab test katurab. Vaccination, PhilHealth, QR code. Dahil ang physical exam later na lang ang physical exam. Kanang naa na mo diri sa Cagayan, nya naka-start na mo og in-campus laboratory, that's the time na. Before, gi-require siya before makasulod sa Paseo building, kinanglan ang physical exam but it's too late. Dili gid maapas gyud magpa-medical exam. So ang kinahanglan, it's up to the department na lang. I-accept ang estudyante as long na QR code, PhilHealth o vaccination card. Dayon, pag naa na sila sa Paseo, we will submit your name for physical exam. So later na lang na ang physical exam. Wala yung swab test.
kanang sir, mangutana ta ba para asa ang physical exam?
There are some cases nga during physical exam makita nga naapay laing sakit ang pasyente. Okay, so ma-determine po dayon na diha nga dili pa ka capable kay naa kay laing sakit aside sa COVID basig mas kuyaw man gud kung naa kay comorbidities. Kaya na siya nga case. So we need some physical exam. So basig wa ka kibalo ana adi ka during physical exam ay bawaan dayon. So ana ang requirements. Okay, in fact we have several cases before. Ang student kay wala pay COVID no. So we accept student during enrollment nga wala mga physical exam. So but later on it was found out nga ang ang student na TB. So inana bitaw. So at least padulong unta siya internship. During internship naman gi-require namo good na must have physical exam ang katong mga interns before sa old curriculum pa. So it was found out nga na siya TB. So inana nga case. So by doing some physical exam, we could determine basig na HIPAA. We don't know. Na mga comorbidities. What the purpose to? Or weak bang immune system sa patient nga wala siya kibalo. Tapos siya autoimmune makita ba? Okay? Did I answer your questions? Okay, Ramona?
Kuan sir ba kanang how about katong wala pa ID sir makasulod ba kagihapon sa campus sir?
Yes. Oo. Kung wala pa ID. Ilang kay anyway, ma-determine man nato by Monday kung kitsa tong walay mga ID. Now, if ever wa pa mo ID, we have to follow up also sa publishing. Asa na yung mga ID. Kay there are some nga ang i-upload pod nila nga picture dili pod dawaton sa kuan ba sa publishing. Mao na nga hinanglan ibawaan po nato din. Kung wala po mo ID as long na mo vaccination then mo inform man na security guard nga student ba ninyo ni yes amo na student then accept din mo para sa taas.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yes. Vertigal.
Sir, if ever na like face-to-face laboratory, kami ra mag-provide sa mga lab gown, mga lab equipment,
Yes,
and
o lab gown.
mga hairnet
Okay.
na, sir.
Kaya wala pa man din mo lab gowns, no? Okay. So isa po na sa concern na so karon ang lab gown. So we will try, no? Usually wala po dahil na ang lab gowns. Wala mo consider dahil. So anyway, na may mga lab gowns. Okay, na matay prescribed color sa atong lab gowns. But if in case na maglisod yun ta, so we will just allow nga naamoy mga lab gowns niyo. Mga white man siguro, pwede ra. Kay it's too late po nga magpahimo pa tag lab gowns. Kaya naatay sastre or kanang tigtahi din sa atong lab gowns with prescribed color. No? So, maulagi na isa po na consider. So, na may mga baligya po lab gowns. No? I think national naman siguro sila, mga baligyang lab gowns. So, mga white po sila. So, we will accept that one lang as long na mo lab gown. So, lab gowns, ID, lab gowns, ID, o katong next class after lab. So, some more. We will not be strict about laboratory gown this time. Kay apiki man. As long na may protection sa inyo self during laboratory. Okay? Any more? Kung wala na din, maybe, yes. Payo.
Sir, example ba, exam week na, tapos sample sa second day sa exam, pag-take sa student, giubo bitaw siya, i-allow pa niya na siya, sir, or bali on
Dili
the
na
spot,
siya i-allow mo
i-call out
ato.
ba?
Dili na siya pwede mo ato sa campus pag kay symptoms. Ikaw na mismo mo inform sa imong faculty nga gisubo ka. Kaya dili na ka pwede mo ato. Inana. So tendency mo lagi ito nga ila pa nang meetingan po karon kay ako man ang i-raise nga concern. What if ang student okay dili makapil og online class online in campus major exam kay gisip-on muhatag batag kay mo request na lang ang estudyante nga pwede online na lang ako exam ang reply sa ako dili pwede we will wait nga maayo ang estudyante then that's the time muhatag og kuan examination. Pero ila pa ko nung istoryahan po. Kaya na kaysa ako man ang gi-raise kahapon. Inana nga mga case ba? What if faculty po? Inana mga case nga nag-laboratory supposed to be ang faculty nga mag-conduct siya laboratory gisip-on man siya. So for 1 week mag-wait ang mawala yung gilantan siya. So, for 1 week delikad to ang faculty for laboratory. So niari nga estudyante dire for that laboratory in campus. So, something inana nga mga questions maghapon akong gi-raise. Okay, kung ang faculty mag-planat or kiubo, hindi pwede mo ito campus. So, saan ito laboratory po sa faculty? Diba? So, murag na-default ang pag-ari sa mga estudyante po kaya mag-laboratory. So, inana nga mga concern akong gi-raise kahapon. So, I'm going to wait kung sa response nila kay ang mga deans kanina nag-meeting na po sa
Ang kuan to day, sir, ang
So, kung-
PhilHealth,
yes, PhilHealth?
if dependent pa ka sa parents, unsa document ang dalon, bali ID sa parents or
Siguro,
certificate?
no? Lagi. Kay makita man po na sa edad kung dependent ka. Kaya I think 18 na above mo dili above 18 or dili na siya cover. So mga first year na pa mga 17 pa mo.
Na ano yung mga sir, sample 20 years old, 21 sa first
Dili
year.
na kinahanglan nanay mong kauli ang PhilHealth na kay dili maka-cover sa mong parents.
Sir, cover pa ko sa akong parents, sir. Pero I'm 19 na po. Pero pag agto na mo sa PhilHealth, sir, ingon sila covered pa mi, sir.
19? Covered pa mo?
Yes po.
So, situate nga kuan lang gid no kay in kaso simba ko lang ba. Cover pa sa PhilHealth. Okay. At least i-raise ninyo na karon no. Kaya ang dito sa meeting ang 18 mo lang i-mention. Below mo yung cover pa. Sige, sige. Kung cover pa mo, at least, kana, then, PhilHealth may gigaingon, no? So, at least, ikuan gini, iklaro gini na ninyo. Okay? So, maro siya requirement. So, maghatag lang mo kung certificate nga, cover pa mo sa PhilHealth yung parents, at least, sure, makayon ng certificate na. Para sure, no? Okay, wala na. Sige, we will continue our discussion. If you have something, questions later on, nga na mo yung mahuna-hunaan, we will create, by the way, we will create GC, a messenger, no? And then, so that you, if you have some concerns, kaya kung sa email man good, mag-email mo sa ako, sometimes hindi na siya mabasa, o sa'yo masapawan. So, unlike sa GC, sa messenger, pop up man siya. So, pag pop up, so mabasa din ako siya. So, matubag din ako unsay mga concerns ninyo. But what I need is please use your family name sa inyong messenger. Because it's hard to recall kung din sa ito nag-message na ko, din, kung pag-search na ko, makarecall ko sa family name, dili mo gawas. Kaya instead nga mo reply na ko, dili mo gawas. Maglisod ko. Okay? So, dili na ako matubag ang iyang concern. Sometimes paghatag ko na ko grado na case nga dili dayon encode sa automate ang grade, so akong ginapanghatag diha na lang sa messenger. So paghatag na ko sa grado dili na mo makakuha ang iyang family name. So kindly use your family name sa atong group chat, okay? Ay mag-create then i-add mo sa atong GC. So that's the best and the easy and fast way na matubag ang inyong mga concern sa atong GC sa messenger. Okay? Kay several nga sa email, nagsapaw-sapaw kay sa email man good, most of the activity kay we are co-teacher, the dean and the academic chair. Co-teacher of all subjects. So kung naay mga activity ang teacher, apil may maka-receive sa mga activity sa student. So magsapaw-sapaw din na. So katong inyong mga concern ko, hindi na din mabasa. No? So unlike sa GC, dali ra kayo din mabasa. Matubag dayon ang inyong concern. So we will just create no, sa messenger and please use your family name. What slides did we stop? What topics? Kasi topic. Abot na ba ito dire? Yung digestive system? Kini nga picture. Anyone? Okay, ang situation ako makon mo gud situation CD kay dili ka pareha ang slide kay mataas na kung discuss, o say mamubo ang discuss. I forgot sa inyo section D. Labot na ba ito dire? Mag-view niyo yung slides. Hello? So, anyone na naka-remember, naka-take picture? Kung sa nga, okay na yan, nabot na po na dito, no? Asan na dito si signal? Ini siya. Okay. Okay. So, dito ni M, ini siya. Dito ni M. Okay. So, we'll start about cell transduction. So, In every cell, they have also some activity in order to maintain a normal function. So, cell transduction, also known as cell signaling, is the transmission of molecular signals from a cell exterior to its interior. So signal received by cells must be transmitted effectively into the cells to ensure an appropriate response. No? So cells like for example sa muscle, no, natay cell. Gusto na ito, liyaw ko na itong muscle, liyaw ko na itong lower extremities, so it will be an impulse or signals to be transmitted ikan sa itong brain. Signal cells must be transmitted effectively to the cell to ensure an appropriate response. Okay. So this step is initiated by cell surface receptors. So in every area, no, so natin ginatawag na receptor. So for example, stimulus, no, or yes, a stimulus needed for the cells to have an action. For example, okay, so in that area, naka-siya receptor. That stimulus will bind to the receptor. This receptor is a protein. No? So that stimulus will bind to that receptor. So, mo-open na yun ang membrane. Okay? Pag-open sa membrane, so that ions needed for that cell, pasulod. No? Pasulod from outside to inside, maka-agi siya that that area. So from outside to inside, like just like insulin, no? Ang insulin, ubayin siya sa receptor. Receptor is a protein. In order for the glucose to pass from outside to inside. Okay? Without this insulin, the membrane will not open. So dili makasulod ang glucose. So inana siyang example. Okay? So initiated by cell surface receptors. That is why even taking medication, atay responsible receptors, that's why may tag naman sa tiyan, ang tambal ganun, naayo man ang akong headache, nawala man ang sakit. Okay? Ganun, ang antibiotic, ganun dili man sa ulo na ako padulong. Okay? Ang effect. Okay, then ako ni ma-maximize. Signal transduction is the process by which a chemical or physical signal is transmitted through a cells as a series of molecular events, most commonly protein phosphorylation catalyzed by protein kinase. So even our cells need also some enzymes, no? In order for them to do some action. Okay, so with the presence with the absence of certain enzymes, so wala action. Just like because there's a medication that need enzymes present on that cells para magamit ng imong medication. In the absence of that enzymes, it can store sa imong body na wala gamit ang medication at it can cause harm. So most commonly protein phosphorylation catalyzed by protein kinase, which ultimately results in a cellular response. Ano siya? Medyo blurred siya. Okay. From outside sa cell wall, again, an example, a hormone or environmental stimulus. No? It will bind to a receptor. Okay. So this is a protein. So in an area in the plasma membrane, there is a receptor. And once the stimulus or hormones, no? Just like an example sa insulin, so binds a receptor inside the cytoplasm of the cell. It can cause reaction, no? And then it will respond, either activation of cellular response. So, phases of signal transduction. There are 3 stages. Reception, a protein that the cell surface detects chemical signals. Okay? In the previous slide, you can see that one. Okay? From the cell wall into the plasma membrane, there is the reception and there is a receptor protein. Transduction, a change in protein stimulus. Other changes including signal transduction pathway. So inside the cytoplasm, so it undergoes transduction and then After that, it creates a response. Almost any cellular activity can have their normal functions. So, and also, these cells need also some energy, no? Created by mitochondria in order for the cells to do some normal functions. Energy in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So actually, in biochemistry, na explanation ana kung pila ka Krebs cycle, no? Pila ka energy ang needed. Monophosphate pentose pathway, pila ka energy ang needed. Ano sa explanation sa inyong discussion sa biochemistry. Okay, events during cell. Okay. So once the target cell receives signal molecule, diba, from the cell wall, outside, the stimulus, then the cell receives signal molecule, in the molecules convert the signal to form that can bring about specific cellular response. This often occurs in a series of steps called signal transduction pathway. Ang signal molecules bind to a receptor protein, as shown in the previous slide, okay, in the cell membrane, and generate cause conformational change in the protein. Yan siya, ba? Change and conformational is transmitted to cytoplasmic domain or in the cytoplasm area. So part of the receptor molecule are found in the transform molecule interacts with information relay molecules in the cytoplasm kung unsa ang gamit sa stimulus. Okay? So the molecules are small molecules present in cytoplasm known as secondary messenger. Now we have also what we call calcium ion and cyclic AMP are examples. Further start a series of chain reactions, ultimately reaches the target chain and cause excretion or repression. So remember the calcium is also needed for the cells in order to maintain fluid balance. Okay, calcium also needed for your bones, no? Para ma-harden ang bones ng teeth, okay? And also muscle contraction, also calcium is also needed. It is a mineral found in many foods. The body needs calcium to maintain strong bones and carry out many important functions. That is why kung elderly, minus sa mga food nila ginapagkaon less ang calcium. That is why they need some calcium supplementation. Okay, manang makita ni mong elderly nga maglakaw, magduko na, no? Medyo humok na ilang bones, so that's fragile, no? Matumbal lang gamay, na, buwak na yun ang bone. Okay? So almost all calcium is stored in the bones and teeth, where it supports their structure and hardness. Okay. The role of calcium in the body. Again, very essential in muscle contraction, as I said. Oocyte activation, building strong bones and teeth, also important in blood clotting. That is why katulad mga samad, no, they also have advised to eat some food rich in calcium, or they will be given some calcium supplementation for blood clotting. Also nerve impulse, so kung less pa yung calcium, minus po ang impulse, nerve impulse transmission. Weak, no? Minus ang function ni mo. Imbis nga, so, ihukon ng imuhang lower extremities, din mo lihok or minus ang paglihok. And also regulating heartbeat and fluid balance within cells. As I said, calcium is needed to maintain fluid balance within cells. Regulating heartbeat now. It is also very important. That is why for those who have a heart problem, so calcium determination level is also needed, a laboratory test to determine calcium. Also potassium, because potassium also is needed for the heart. Okay, the function of the heart must also need some calcium. That's why katong na mga heart problem nga paspas kayo mubit ang ilang heart, so sometimes we have to determine kasi taas kailang calcium, ilang potassium, no? Kailang potassium taas or ang calcium because tinis kuya man po sa those heart problem nga mag-increase ang heart rate kasi kapuyo na po nilang heart, no? Sige, dito paspas. Okay? In fact, so those mga na heart problem, enlarge ang heart, no? They're not, they were told na please avoid eating sa katong banana nga rich in potassium. Okay? But there are some also cases nga you need potassium supplementation kay nagtikag antihypertensive medication then increase excretion sa imong potassium or calcium. Okay, sa mga thiazides. Okay, antihypertensive thiazides medication. So it can increase excretion, mapagawas sa ihi nimo ang potassium. So that is why you need also potassium supplementation. Okay, decrease mo potassium sa pag-work sa imong heart normally, ba? So need to monitor also for hypertensive nga nagdiuretics. So sometimes you can shift medication katong potassium sparing diuretics. So depende mo sa condition sa patient sa hypertension, no? Kung unsa nga medication ihatag. Diuretics or beta blockers, calcium channel blockers. So it is important. Also plays an important role in muscle contraction, transmitting messages or nerve impulses, and release of hormones. If people aren't getting enough calcium in their diet, the body takes calcium from bones to ensure normal cell function. That is why mo nang medyo fragile na tayo sa elderly. No? Kay less na ilang calcium intake. So take note that the body takes calcium from the bones to ensure normal cell function. So the result can lead to weakened bones. So event continuation of the event of the cells. A single cell may have several types of receptors, as I mentioned before. It's binding to a specific signal molecule. So you're taking some medication as a receptor intended for that medication, adto po dayon ang iyahang effect for that medication. So dili ingon nga kaya ang receptor nga intended para man to sa ato nga site, no? So dito po ang effect din sa medication. So it's binding to a specific signal molecule. A cell can receive a number of different types of signal molecules simultaneously. Once a signal are relayed into the cells, they are selectively routed through the various signal pathways to the target. Kung asa to ang site, no? Nga need sa imuhang medication. So cellular response for signal molecule may be a change in gene expression, genes in ion permeability, or a change in the enzyme activity, or protein three-dimensional structure. So with this, it changes ultimately affects the metabolism of cell or organ systems. So some types of signal molecules pass through the cell membrane and directly activate gene or proteins without involvement of any secondary messenger. Okay. So lipid-soluble molecules, steroid, or small molecules, are example of this. Second messenger. Example of signal transduction, we have ligand-gated ion channel. Example of an ion allowed into the cell during ligand-gated ion channel opening is the calcium. No? So therefore, we mentioned that calcium is also needed to maintain a normal fluid in the cell. So it acts as a second messenger, initiating signal transduction cascade and altering physiology of responding cell. So what does signal transduction mean? It's a process of transferring signal throughout an organism, especially across or through a cell, from outside to inside. throughout an organism. Signal transduction relies on a protein known as receptor, as we mentioned. Okay. Without the receptor, dili po magamit ang stimulus, no? Without the receptor. Because sometimes even though there is a receptor, like for example, insulin resistance. Okay? What do you mean by that? The insulin resistance receptor. So that receptors resist niya ang insulin to bind. So what will happen na sa mga diabetic, no? Insulin resistance. Meaning, dili gihapon magamit ang insulin. Kaya dili man siya makabind sa receptor to open the membrane para makapas ang glucose inside the cell. Okay? Sa muscles para madamit sa cells. Mga insulin. So, relies on a protein known as receptor which wait for a chemical, physical, or electrical signal. Okay. So, muna, pag-bind, open, but katong insulin resistance, receptor, i-reject niya ang receptor. But not all. May uban, pwede gyapon. But still, maka-increase gyapon ang glucose sa bloodstream for those patients. Kaya nasa insulin resistant receptor. So, receptor proteins are specialized with the type of cell they are attached. So, 4 types of cell signaling. Okay, there are 4 categories of chemical signaling found in multicellular organisms: paracrine, endocrine, autocrine, and direct signaling across gap junctions. So what is paracrine? It's a form of cell signaling or cell-to-cell communication. So from one cell to the other cell communication, in which a cell produces signal to induce changes in the nearby cells by releasing some mediator, no? Source of signal to the other cells. So, naadayoy changes na yun sa action or response sa neighboring cells. So, altering behavior of those cells. Ang endocrine, katong example na to, no? Yeah, of course, when endocrine cells release hormones that act on distant target cells in the body, like insulin, okay, from outside. Endocrine cells release insulin. So, pasulod sa bloodstream, and then, ang kuan, ang insulin, mubay sa receptor, dayon, o itong makagawas na dayon ang glucose into the target cells. O na endocrine signaling. Autocrine self. Auto means self. It's a form of cell signaling in which cell secretes are hormones or chemical messenger that binds to autocrine receptors on that same cell. So, ang signal within one cell, niya ang receptor within one cell. Binds to autocrine receptors on that same cell leading to changes in the cell. So differentiate between paracrine and autocrine. Again, a cell targets in paracrine, a cell targets a nearby cell, meaning not one not attached by gap junctions. Because the other one types, it have gap junction. No? And next slide, no? It shows a signaling molecule produce one cell diffusing short distance to a neighboring cell. So from one cell to the other cell. An autocrine cell, a cell target itself releasing a signal that can bind to receptor on its own surface. So ang direct signaling, it needs gap junction. Gap junctions in between sa membrane, no? From plasma 1 membrane to plasma 2, there is a gap junction. Okay? Or by transferring signaling molecule across gap junctions between neighboring cells. So what is gap junctions? Are specialized intercellular connection between a multitude of animal cell types. So with these gap junctions, directly connect cytoplasms of those cells, which allow various molecules, ions, electrical impulse directly pass through a regulated gate between cells. So this is an example of gap junctions. Plasma membrane 1 of cells, of plasma membrane cell number 2, there is a gap junction. So from one cell to the next cell with this gap junction. I want to say direct. Okay? Direct signaling. Okay. So signal transduction important. Why? Yes. This may regulate many important cellular functions such as growth, differentiation, metabolism, and survival of the cell. But in cancer cells, some of these pathways are altered. So continue multiply. At the same time, as I said, they will create some blood vessels for the source of their food, what we call this angiogenesis. So, pag ma-altered ang kuan, ang some of these pathways in a normal cell, so minus po ang function sa cells. So membrane receptors are specialized protein molecules in membrane of cells to its external molecules like hormones, neurotransmitter, drugs, attach triggering changes in the function of the cells. So membrane, plasma membrane. So again, this process is called transduction. The external signal transduced into action. Now, in this process also, the cells, di ba, they need also energy sa ilahang functions. No? They need energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate. So this is again one example, katong cell signaling, katong signal molecule can be bind to the receptor protein to open the membrane that can let the ions goes inside para magamit sa ato ang cells. There are receptor sites protein found in cell membrane. Okay? So receptor site proteins, it is the most important part. Without the receptor sites, so dili pod makuan tong mga signal molecules makasulod whatever nga say part ng body nga say need ang signal molecules. So it's very important, receptor site proteins. Always found in the outer cell membrane surface. Outer cell membrane surface. Kata sa atong ipakita nga picture. So again, our protein molecules inside target cell or its surface that receive chemical signal. Chemical signals released by signaling cells in the form of small, usually volatile or soluble molecules called ligand. So what are the types of membrane receptor? We have ligand-gated ion channels, G-protein coupled receptors, receptor tyrosine kinesis. So these are mga ang receptor tyrosine kinesis is an enzyme. So ligand-gated ion channels, also known referred to as ionotrophic receptors, they are group of transmembrane ion channel proteins. It's open to allow ions such as sodium, potassium, calcium, and chloride to pass through the membrane in response to the binding of chemical messengers such as neurotransmitter. So this is an example of ligand-gated ion channels. Siya, okay? Same, no? So neurotransmitter bind to the receptor to let open ang channel. Yeah, sa membrane, no? From outside to inside. So ions flow across membrane. Ligand-gated ion channels. Let's go to about gene regulation. It's an informal term used to describe any mechanism used by a cell to increase or decrease the fraction of a specific gene products. So cells can modify their gene expression patterns to trigger development pathways, respond to environmental stimuli, or adapt a new food sources. Okay, so actually, so from DNA, it will undergo transcription to produce some RNA. Then ang RNA, by translation, will produce a protein. No? So with the help of katong polymerase enzyme, RNA polymerase enzyme. That is why cells also needed some enzymes in order to function. So prokaryotic cells can only regulate gene expression by controlling amount of transcription. So it therefore become possible to control the expression by regulating transcription nucleus and also controlling the RNA levels and protein translation present outside the nucleus. So what is transcription? Is the first step in gene expression, involves copying genes DNA sequence to make an RNA molecule. So as I said, from DNA to the process of transcription, it can create a DNA or RNA molecules. From DNA, by transcription, with the help of enzymes RNA polymerase, it can create some RNA molecule. So again, transcription with the aid of RNA polymerase can perform the enzymes RNA polymerase, which link nucleotides to form RNA strand using DNA strand as a template. Okay. Why is regulation of gene expression is important? Gene expression can be regulated by various cellular processes with the aim to control the amount of nature of expressed genes. And these regulatory proteins bind to DNA, send signals that indirect control the rate of gene expression. So, ano siya ang picture, no? From transcription to translation. Okay. So, from the DNA, by transcription, it creates RNA molecule. In the process of translation, this RNA molecule can produce protein like polypeptide protein. So the process by which DNA is copied into RNA is transcription. And that which RNA is used to produce protein is called translation. So try to see the picture, no? From DNA, by the process of transcription, so the DNA is copied to make RNA. So the same picture, no? Nagyapon. DNA with transcription, RNA with RNA polymerase, then it can produce RNA. So by the process of translation, it can produce protein like polypeptide protein. So there is a video in the YouTube you can view gene transcription. Let's go to about tissue type. Okay, it's a group of cells in close proximity organized to perform one or more specific functions. Tissues are a group of cells that have similar structure and act together to perform a specific function. Group of tissue make up organs in the body such as brain and heart. So there are 4 basic tissue types: epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. This is the microscopic picture of types of tissue. Okay, that you can see, no? Microscopic. Okay, so smooth muscle tissue usually naa sa atong digestive, no? Si acts involuntary. So what is the difference between involuntary and voluntary control? Anyone? Involuntary and voluntary control. So sa smooth muscle tissue, especially nato sa digestive nato, di akas involuntary control. Meaning, continue siya trabaho, maski wala na siya ikiingnas. No? So continue. Even natulog ka, okay? Continue ang digestion nato. That's why in the morning, till gutom na punta. Okay? So involuntary. Just like sa ato ang heart, cardiac muscle tissue, involuntary control. Maski natulog ka, continue na siya o pump. No? Continue imong heartbeat. Kung natulog ka na stop imong heartbeat, so meaning, inikabuntag, dili nakakamata. Rest in peace. Okay? So kung voluntary lang, kaya di sana ako patrabaho ng heart. Di nakakamata po. No? So, muna siya. Smooth muscle tissue and cardiac muscle tissue work as involuntary. So, ang atong skeletal, so but of course, kung mo yung i-move na ko ang lower extremities na ko, dili na ko i-move. Okay? So, voluntary. Lakaw ko. So, depende kung sa imo palihog, no? So, more on skeletal muscles ay voluntary control. whereas smooth muscles, cardiac muscles are involuntary control. So epithelial tissue creates protective boundaries and is involved in diffusion of ions and molecules. Now, there are different epithelial tissue. We have simple, cuboidal, simple columnar, simple squamous, stratified squamous. It depends on the organ involved. No, epithelial tissue have 4. Okay? Simple, cuboidal, simple columnar. It depends on the organ. So epithelial tissue is a sheet of cells that covers a body surface or lines and a body cavity. So epithelial lines the outer surface of organs and blood vessels throughout the body, as well as the inner surface of cavities, meaning internal organs. So, nalilay sila, no? Simple squamous, simple stratified, simple cuboidal, stratified cuboidal, simple columnar, pseudostratified columnar, and transitional. Okay? So, 2 forms occur in the human body, covering and lining epithelium. Forms the outer layer of the skin, lines open cavities of digestive and respiratory systems. So, lining epithelium covers the walls of organs of the closed ventral body cavity. So, as I mentioned, it depends of the organ involved, the type of tissue or epithelium. Now, sa atong esophagus, we have stratified squamous epithelium. Sa atong respiratory tract, we have pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Sa atong intestine, we have simple columnar epithelium. And then, sa ato ang kidney, we have simple cuboidal epithelium. And in our air sacs of the lungs, okay, we have simple squamous epithelium. So these are number of cell layers and cell types together give rise to 6 different types of epithelial tissue. Simple squamous, simple cuboidal, simple columnar, stratified squamous, stratified cuboidal, and stratified columnar. Again, take note that in different organ, they have different epithelial cell type. Okay. So in general, 4 functions may be attributed to epithelial tissues: protection of underlying tissue, absorption, secretion, reception of sensory stimuli. Now, connective tissue. The human body composed of just 4 basic kinds of tissue: the nervous, muscular, epithelial, and connective tissue. And this connective tissue is the most abundant and widely distributed, and they varied in type. So it includes fibrous tissue, fat, cartilage, bone, bone marrow, and blood. Okay, so it's medyo blurred siya, no? So this is connective tissue. So there are 6 major types of connective tissue: loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, bone, cartilage, blood, and lymph. Major functions: binding and supporting, protecting, insulating, storing reserve fuel, and transporting substances within the body. And also this connective tissue have various levels of vascularity. Cartilage is avascular, while this connective tissue is poorly vascular. So your muscle tissue is needed to contract. Muscle tissue contract to initiate movement in the body. And muscle tissue is soft tissue that comprise muscles in animal bodies, give rise to muscles' ability to contract. So this muscle tissue is formed during embryonic development through the process known as myokinesis. Myo means muscle. So there's also a video about connective tissue. This was in the YouTube. So we have the types of muscle tissue: cardiac, skeletal, and smooth muscle. Okay, so 3 types of muscle: no? Skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. Functions, kung skeletal muscle moves bones and other structures. Cardiac, contract heart to pump blood. So what are the 5 functions of muscle tissue? Okay, producing body movements, stabilizing body positions, regulating organ volume, moving substances within the body, and generating heat. Diba? Katong too much cold, okay? What will happen? Ang imong muscle mag-shivering, okay? Magkurog. Okay? That is one action sa imong body to generate heat. So too much coldness, hypothermia, may cause cell death. Where would you find elasticity? In the skeletal muscle tissue. So this skeletal muscle tissue is a specialized contractile tissue found in animals with functions to move an organism's body. And this skeletal muscle tissue comprises a series of bundled muscle fibers surrounded by protective membranes. So what makes muscle contract? Diba, we mentioned sa to. One is the muscle needs to contract calcium. It's a mineral found in many food. The body needs calcium to maintain strong bones and to carry out many important functions. Kung weak po mong bones, remember that your muscle attached to a tendon and a tendon attached to the bone. Okay? Kung minus po din mong bone o function, di po mo malihok. So minus po ang function sa imuhang muscles. Especially, less ang imuhang calcium. So take note about the importance of calcium in our cell. Okay, almost all calcium stored in the bones and teeth where it supports the structure and hardness. Now, kung less ang imong calcium sa imuhang bone, okay, or less ang imong calcium sa imong body, sa imong cells, what will happen? Ang calcium sa imong bones mo gamiton nila. Okay? May gamiton sa cells in order to function. Normally, ang cells, kung magamit sila calcium sa imong bones, so what will happen sa imong bones? Fragile, ma-weaken, di ba? So that is why nga, katong mga elderly, they are advised to drink more calcium supplement. No? Kay usually silang food, kay limit na kay ilang mga food, kagalang gidili. So less na kay calcium, so they have to drink some milk with calcium or calcium supplementation na tablet. No? So, na siya nga, pag less mo calcium, so ang imong cells mo gamit siya calciums from your bones, so mo-weaken na dayon ang imuhang bones. So raw calcium, muscle contraction, o site activation, building strong bones and teeth, blood clotting, nerve impulse transmission, regulating heartbeat, and fluid balance within the cell. So it's also important sa atong heart na we have to maintain a normal calcium, even potassium. No? So our heart need also potassium para sa iyang work to pump blood. So kung weak, less ang imong calcium, weak po ang function sa imong heart, o weak imong potassium. Okay? Less po ang function. At too much food, grabe po yung trabaho. If you have some heart problem, what will happen? Heart attack po ka. So it must be properly monitored for those mga na-heart problem. In fact, sa potassium po, no? Na mga heart problem, enlarge ang heart. So, kuya po kayo, kung increase kayo lang potassium, grabe po trabaho. Trabaho mayan ang heart. So, tendency mag-heart attack po. Kapuyon po, especially enlarged. It must be maintained in balance. Napili, mga nagsag pagkaon na ng saging tundan, no? Because rates of potassium for those mga na-heart problem. Characteristic of muscle tissue. Characterized by properties that allow movement. Muscle cells are excitable. They respond to stimulus. So its smooth muscle has spindle-shaped, non-striated, uninucleated fibers. Nasa tuhang digestive, no? Of course, in the walls of internal organs and work as involuntary. Then sa atong heart, cardiac muscles, has striated branch, uninucleated fibers, of course, in the walls of heart, and work as involuntary. Skeletal muscles has striated tubular, multinucleated fibers, usually attached to the skeleton, and work as voluntary. Again, they are contractile, meaning they can shorten and generate a pulling force, your muscle tissue. So when attached between two movable objects such as two bones, contraction of muscle cause the bones to move. Then relax mo siya. Pag move ni mo, contract, then relax. Okay? Because if you notice ka na mag-muscle cramp, no? Continuous ang contraction while relaxation mo ng muscle cramps. So just again view or watch YouTube muscle tissue. Nervous tissue transmit and integrate information through the central and peripheral nervous system. This is a term for groups of organized cells in the nervous system. So, naadiha ang mga command, no? Kung sa buhat-buhaton, kung sa ilihok, no? So, it is the organ system that controls body movements, send and carry signals to and from the different parts of the body. So, as I said, naadiha ang command, no? Organ system that controls has a role in controlling body functions such as digestion. Ala intestine, puno man diha ang stomach. Okay, puno man diha imong puno mag food, no? So, mas kinatulog kala continue diha ang trabaho. Primary functions of nervous tissue is to receive stimuli and send impulse to spinal cord and brain. The brain sends back a response to muscles via this nerve. So, muagi ang nerve impulse through the axon. So, there's also a video about this, no? Just watch. So, the nervous tissue is made up of neurons, which are the functional units of nervous system. Neuralgia and connective tissue, which support, maintain, protect, and nourish the neuron. So neuron is the morphological functional unit of nervous system, highly specialized in physiological properties of excitability and conductivity. Upon stimulation, it generates an electrical change called impulse, which is propagated along its cell surface and protoplasmic extension known as the axon. So this is where the stimulus or nerve impulse pass from the nervous tissue to the other cells. Impulse transmitted through the axon. So it is the term for groups of organized cells in the nervous system, which is the organ system that controls the body movement, send and carry signals to and from the different parts of the body, and also has a role in controlling bodily functions such as digestion. So cancer, okay?
Sir?
I mentioned about, yes?
Nakapami, sir,
May time na?
2:30
Ay,
po.
okay. Sorry. Okay, we will continue. Sorry. Okay, we will continue next meeting. Wala ko mabantayan ng time. Okay. Sige. Okay, thank you for being with me this afternoon discussion and prepare for a short quiz next meeting. No? Okay, please don't be absent. Study from the start.
Oh, thank you.
Okay? Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank you. God bless.
Bye. God bless.
Okay.
Well, sir, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank
you, sir.
Bye.